All right, hello YouTube. Um, Today I'm going to be doing another video game review because it's been quite some time since I've done one of those. And I'm going to be reviewing a game that I've actually been wanting to review for quite some time. I'm going to be reviewing Marvel's Spider-Man 2. Um, now, if you have, if you watched, anyone here who is watching this who has seen my previous video game reviews, you're obviously quite familiar with how I normally do them. This time, I'm going to be doing it a little differently. I'm going to be talking about, um, I'm going to be breaking this review up, I guess you could say, into like sections. Um, I'm going to be, I'm going to be talking a little bit about the story. Um, I'm going to be talking about the voice acting, some of the gameplay, and overall what I liked about the game and what I thought worked, and what I didn't like about the game and what I thought didn't work. So that is how I'm going to be doing this review. Um, so Insomniac Spider-Man. You know, um, when the first game was announced, when Insomniac announced that they were or I should say, when Marvel Games announced that they were going to be teaming up with Insomniac for an all-new Spider-Man game, everybody, like everybody all over just lost their shit, and rightly so. Um, because um, because not only had there not been a new Spider-Man game in quite some time, but also um Insomniac is such a beloved, video game company, um and when this announcement, dropped, it obviously caused a great deal of excitement. Um and Marvel Spider-Man, is easily considered, one of the best Spider-Man games ever created. And obviously you will get no argument from me. Um, and the game, so when the sequel was, when the sequel was announced, there was obviously, there was so much. There was literally like like the hype for the second game was like literally amplified by like, was literally amplified by like 100% when because the first game was such a huge success across the board, both critically and commercially. um there was obviously a lot of hype, um more so for this one, a lot more so this time around for this one. Obviously, one of the reasons being, that they were bringing Venom into it, they were bringing the black suit into it. um and a lot of people and a lot of fans were very, 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 very excited to see that. And the last time that we got, something like that, the last time that we got something like that was, I believe, Spider-Man Web of Shadows. So it hadn't been done since then. Um, and and if and if you watch, some of my other videos, that I pay attention to, like all the behind the scenes stuff, problems, if there are any, or just, any other details or anything like that, that might be important. Um, and when I heard that, uh, when I heard that Venom was not going to be Eddie Brock in this game, obviously, like as a fan, I was very, 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 very pissed. Um, that was, that they were going to change it. And as a result of that, I was very, very, um, I refused to play this game for a very, very long time. And I was, um, and I was very, very apprehensive about, playing it, even when I finally did decide to pick it up and play it. And originally, when I decided to play it, it was my intention, well, that's to play it just so I could rip it apart. However, when I finished it, when I finished playing it, I was left with very, very mixed feelings towards the game. Part of me was uh, very, very surprised at how much they didn't change, but at the same time, I was not. Um, but at the same time, there was still a great deal about the game that really, really just bugged the hell out of me. Um, so let's get into the review. Let's talk about the plot. Um, this game, or the story this time around, is the events pretty much pick up where Miles Morales leaves off, and that is Miles has pretty much come into his own as the new Spider-Man. Peter Parker, Spider-Man is obviously still around. Um, and Peter in this game is very much still being, like the mentor figure for Miles. But they are at the point, uh, both him and Peter are very much at the point that they are going out on missions together now. They are going out, together and going up against, enemies and crime and all that kind of stuff. And um, so he is, so everybody is pretty much aware that there is now two Spider-Men in New York City. And Peter, um, and in regards to where Peter is in this game, Peter is, he's back together with Mary Jane. Um, he's back together with Mary Jane. He's back together with Mary Jane. They are living together. But Peter is still coping with the loss of Aunt May. He's still struggling with that. And they are, but for the most part, like he's happy. He's happy with MJ. He's happy with his life. But at the same time, there are obviously still some things that he is struggling with. And um, and then we get Harry Osborn finally brought back into the picture, who is obviously, Peter's best friend. Um, he finally awakens from his coma. And so a lot of the game, a lot of the game's story focuses on, like Harry and Peter's relationship and their, friendship, slash bromance. Um, and them, very much catching up, after all these years, because Harry's been sick. Um, and Harry, um, obviously, um, in this game, spoilers. I am gonna be giving light spoilers in this review. Just a word of warning if you haven't played the game. Um, Harry brought Harry Osborn is Venom in this game. Peter gets, the symbiote from Harry Osborn in this game. And that was one of the things, that I struggled with when I first heard that this was going to be the case. However, it worked out a lot better than I expected it to. Venom, when Harry Osborn, when the suit finally does take over and he finally turns into Venom, the only thing that they really changed is Venom's identity. The only thing that they really changed was Venom's identity. Venom pretty much, for the most part, he pretty much acts how you would expect Venom to act in the game. He's ruthless, he's evil. In this game, Venom is obviously a bad guy. So he, they didn't really change much as I thought. They didn't change as much as I thought they would. For his character. For the most part, Insomniac did a really, really good job at capturing, the essence of Venom and, and who he was, or, and who he is, or I guess I should say, who he was as a villain, because now in the comics he's an anti-hero. But anyway, that's sort of off topic. The gameplay, this is where the game sort of falls apart and shines at the same time. A lot of the gameplay, specifically like a lot of the side missions, are nothing that you haven't already seen from the previous two games, the first game and Miles Morales. They are very, very repetitive. They are very, very repetitive, and it doesn't really bring anything new to the table. And that was one of the issues that I had with this game. Because really, by the third installment in a game series, you would really expect, like a night and day difference in gameplay. And for the most part, in this game, you don't really see much of that. And the side missions are, like I said, are very, very repetitive, very, 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 just, very, very, I guess you could say like one-sided, like either, it's either, like you're stopping crimes or you're saving people, or, it's literally nothing that you haven't already seen from the previous two games. The combat system, for the most part, is the same as it was in the previous two games. Peter and Miles do have their own upgrade, upgrade systems. There are like certain upgrades that carry over to both Peter and Miles. And there are upgrades where you can get that only Peter or Miles, can have. The black suit does have its own upgrade system. It does have its own combat system. However, you don't really get the black suit until the end of literally until towards the end of the game. The campaign is around 10 hours. It's a very, very short campaign. A lot of content was cut from this game. That was one of the other things that really, really annoyed me. They actually cut out 90% of Tony Todd's voice work as Venom. as Venom, rest in peace. He just died last year. Um, he just died last year. But according to a source, they did that because they are going to use that voice work the for um for the Venom game that supposedly is supposed to be coming out this year. Um, but yeah, that was another issue that I had with the game. Um, the black suit is um, the black suit. The black suit doesn't really. I mean, yes, I mean it is. It is satisfying to use, but at the same time, it doesn't have as many abilities as it should. Like if you played Spider-Man Web of Shadows, you know that there's a night and day difference between there's a night and day difference uh for the two combat systems of Peter Parker Spider-Man just being like himself, just being like regular Spider-Man, and then the black suit literally has its own it's literally like a completely different world, um in terms of like the stuff you can do with the black suit in Web of Shadows. Um in Spider-Man 2, um while yes, it does have its own combat system and its own like combat abilities and stuff like that, it really doesn't do much beyond that. um it really doesn't do much beyond that. The web slinging, though, in the game, the web slinging is better than it's ever been in in the Insomniac Spider-Man games. This is one of the highlights of um this is one of the highlights of this game. The web slinging is friggin' fantastic. It feels so friggin' phenomenal. And it's literally just, it's satisfying as hell. Um it's literally just, it feels great, it looks great, it's absolutely phenomenal. um Another addition to the game is the um I guess you could call them web wings. These are something that Spider-Man had during the Stanley Steve Ditko era of of the comics. Um he would have one under each arm, and they would allow him to glide. That is what that is also a new feature of that is also a new gameplay mechanic for Spider-Man 2, and I'm not gonna lie, it is a lot of fun to do. um the voice acting is absolutely phenomenal. um you, the voice acting is absolutely phenomenal. Yuri Lowenthal obviously returns as Spider-Man. um when he um when he has the black suit, when the black suit finally, starts to take over and starts to completely change, his personality, and um, when it starts to completely, change his personality and starts to, take over his body, his voice acting is absolutely incredible. There is like his voice just completely changes. um his voice just completely changes. Like, he's terrifying. um he is genuinely terrifying when he starts to go down that road. um when he starts to go down that road, like, his dialogue changes, his voice changes. He is absolutely phenomenal. um he is absolutely phenomenal in those moments. And that is another thing in terms of story. Insomniac did a incredible job at capturing just how crazy and how evil Peter Parker starts to become when the costume starts to take over his body and starts to really change, like his line of thinking and his um and just and turns him, literally into someone just literally, completely, unrecognizable. Um and they did such an incredible job with with bringing that to life. He completely loses it. That is definitely one of the best parts. In fact, it's probably my favorite part of the story, period. But yeah, no, they did such an incredible job with that. They did such an incredible job at capturing that. um spy You do switch between Peter Parker and Miles. Some missions in the game, will require you to play as Peter, and some missions will require you to play as Miles. However, when you're free roaming around the city, however, when you're free roaming around the city, web slinging or whatever, you can switch between Peter and Miles freely, whenever you want, as much as you want. Um, the Everybody, um, everybody who was around for the first game, Yuri Lowenthal. I don't remember the name of the actor who plays Miles, but he is also back. Laura Bailey is back as MJ. Um, 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 the actor who plays Harry Osborn is back. I don't know his name. Um, every all the actors that all the actors that played, their characters in the first game are pretty much back for this one. Um, the voice acting is phenomenal. Another huge, huge, huge issue that I had with this game, and it's not just me, is MJ's redesign. That looks fucking ugly as shit. Um, I don't remember off the top of my head why they changed it. I know there's a big story behind it. I don't remember why it was changed. That's something that you're gonna have to Google for yourselves and find out. But um, but a lot of people were not at all happy with her redesign, because there was nothing wrong at all with how she looked in you know in there was nothing wrong at all with how she looked in the first game. um and here she and her redesign, she literally looks like she could be Peter's mother. It's creepy and it's gross. um um and yeah, so that was, yeah, no, the less said about that the better. um Another returning feature that really, really, really pissed me off, and these were not very well liked. These were in the first game, and they were not very well liked at all. The Mary Jane stealth missions. Those were annoying as all fuck. Except uh, this time in the game, she has an overpowered stun gun that she can go around and stun enemies that literally takes them out in one hit. It's like, are you fucking serious? And then apparently she got trained. Anybody who has Anybody who has played the anybody who played, the DLC for the first game knows that Silver Sable was one of the DLC. Was one of the DLCs. The game apparently tries to spin it as, oh, I got trained by Silver Sable, off screen. Excuse me. Yeah, no, it's like, give me a fucking break. Um, it would, it would be like if they decided to kill off, a major character off screen. It's like, it's stupid. Um, so that was another thing that I had an issue with. Um, the graphically, the game looks great. Um, graphically, the game looks great. Other than MJ's redesign, but graphically the game looks great. Graphically, the game looks great. Venom looks incredible. Venom's redesign was one of my favorite things about the game. That was one of my favorite things about the game. Another thing that pissed me off, MJ, spoilers, MJ turns into Scream. Yes, the symbiote. Yes, the yellow female symbiote Scream. That was ridiculous. That made no sense at all. And another thing that really, really pissed me off, is at the end of the game, Peter Parker decides to retire as Spider-Man and just let Miles be, the new Spider-Man. This pissed me off because there was no, because, anybody who has seen, Spider-Man 2 knows that, who has seen, Spider-Man 2, the movie, everybody who has seen that movie knows why Peter Parker gave up being Spider-Man. Everyone who has seen that movie, everybody who has seen that movie knows, just how much emotional weight there was to that scene, to somebody just, going over to, to Peter just, walking over to the trash can, with his costume, throwing it in the trash and then just walking away. And, I mean, we know why he did it. He did it because, he never, he never got any kind of, appreciation, for all the, for all the heroics that, that he did, for all of the, for all the hard work and just in the sacrifices that he had to make. In this, with this, it feels like there's no emotional weight behind it. It's like they did it just to do it. There was no, there was no emotional, like weight or attachment behind it. It's like, why? It's like, why? It's like, it's like, why? This makes no sense at all. And, and the worst thing that you can do, with stuff like this is, is to do it just to do it. And there, and that's, and it's happening constantly these days. And it's happening constantly these days, and it pisses me off to no end. But yeah, no, overall, this game was massively, massively overhyped. It is not at all a bad game. It is not at all a bad game. There are there are some good things about the game, but at the same time, it there isn't enough originality about the game. There isn't enough there's not enough there's not enough there's not enough like sequel substance in there, if you understand where I'm coming from. There's not, because again, because again, this is the third installment um in in the Insomniac Spider-Verse, so you would obviously expect like a night and day difference. And really, this game really just felt like a DLC. It like I said, the campaign is 10 hours, and for the most part it doesn't bring anything new to the table, and it doesn't bring anything new to the table, and um it doesn't show you really much of anything that you haven't already seen. It doesn't really show you anything that you haven't already seen in the past two games. There's not there's a serious lack of innovation with this game, and this game was massively overhyped. Like when it came out, everybody was talking about how, it's the greatest Spider-Man game ever made. It's the greatest comic book game ever made. It was even nominated for Game of the Year. Nominate Not nominated. It did not win Game of the Year, but yeah, no, it just there was a lot about this game, even stuff that I'm not going to bring up, even stuff that I'm not going to get into, in this video. But there was a lot about the game that I just, and some of it worked well in a gameplay perspective, but literally made no sense in a story perspective. In a story perspective, like Peter becoming Anti-Venom, which literally made no sense at all. Now, from a gameplay perspective, yeah, it was really, really cool to have, like a symbiote type suit, after you gave up, the black suit. But from a story perspective, it's like, yeah, this just feels really, really desperate. But yeah, no, that was another thing that just did not at all work for me. So overall, I know I usually don't give scores for my reviews, but in this case, this game is really a 7 out of 10. It is not at all a bad game. There are, it is not at all a bad game. There are some cool, gameplay mechanics in here, but there's too much, lack of originality and lack of innovation that drags it down. That I just feel, really drags it down, and just really doesn't, it doesn't bring enough new stuff to the table for me. So yeah, it's a 7 out of 10. It's a 7 out of 10. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you played it and what you thought of it. Do you agree with me? Do you not agree? Like, subscribe, and I will talk to you guys later. Peace.